Hello, everybody. It's Matt Johnson. We are back here with another episode of Real Estate Uncensored. Thank you so much for joining us. And while we wait for some people to join in and watch us live here on Google Hangouts, as we are prone to do, I want to speak to anyone that's watching this on YouTube, watching the replay here. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube so you get our future videos as well as other real estate coaching content. And then if you prefer the audio version just nestled right here in your ears, head on over to iTunes or Stitcher and subscribe there. So we've got an interesting topic, right, Greg? Today we've got we're talking about investors and how to find properties outside of your market. And the junior grandmaster himself is going to be joined by a special guest. We'll bring him in a second. But Greg, today, what is up, man? How was your weekend?
Matt, oh my God, dude, I love weekends. I especially love long weekends. It was a good weekend, dude. Okay, so there's this page on Facebook called Tasty. It's like all these crazy recipes and stuff, and I've been watching it and following it, and I like to cook, right? And I said, you know what, screw it. I'm just gonna go do it. I'm gonna make 2 dishes. So I went and I fucking knocked it out of the park. There was this salmon, with this glaze on it, with asparagus, with potatoes, and I baked it. Dude, my friend Gina came over and we started. She'd never seen the zombie show we were talking about. What's the zombie show?
Oh, Z Nation?
No, not Z Nation. Walking Dead.
Okay.
The Walking Dead. So I introduced her to The Walking Dead, and we also got to and eat some salmon. So it was great. And anyone who hasn't seen it, I think the movie is called The Visit. It's like a creepy movie that's out right now. If you guys like horror movies with a little dash of funny, you've got to watch it because the kid in this movie, I was laughing out loud multiple times. So my weekend was amazing. How was yours, Matt? I understand that you might need an alternate transportation.
Well, I currently have an alternate form of transportation. It's called my legs. That's what will get me to Starbucks today, because my car was towed out of my condo community yesterday. Apparently, I parked in what somebody felt was the wrong spot, and despite the fact that I have a parking permit and have a right to be here, I got my car towed anyway. So at some point, somebody will get an earful other than me, because the only person I had to yell at yesterday was myself. So
why don't you put a big old burning pile of dog shit in a paper bag, right, straight up Billy Madison style, on his front porch?
I'll work on it.
That'll get him back.
All right. Well, let's get back. All right. Well, let's bring in our special guest, and then we'll take a question from the Facebook forum, the group. How about that?
Yeah, let's do it.
All
let's
right.
bring Ben in.
So we're talking about how to find investment properties outside of your area. So, Greg, tell us about the guest and how did you guys meet?
So, guys, today is Ben Smith. He's from a company called Real Wealth here in Walnut Creek. I met Ben, 2+ years ago, Ben?
About two and a half years, yes.
Yeah, 2.5 years ago, give or take, when Ben came through my training course at J. Rockcliffe. And I was impressed by Ben immensely at that point because he is a spreadsheet king. This man has analyzed it down to the nitty-gritty on where to invest, how to invest, what markets to invest in, what kind of product to invest in. He's been doing it a while himself. Now he's helping people do it themselves. So the reason why I'm so excited to have Ben on is because all of us have clients that have capital, and it might not be the best market in our current markets to reinvest. So Ben, refer people over to Ben, guys, if you find them knowledgeable, which you will, I guarantee you, and help your clients reinvest, and you look like a rock star. So Ben, welcome, my friend. I'm glad you're here.
Well, thank you so much. And let me just add real quickly, since you're on the subject of horror films, there's another one. I used to be really into them as a 20-something, but whatever. But there's a real good film called It Follows. And it's basically a spirit inhabits somebody, and they just kind of keep following whoever the next in line is. And so the entire film, you're looking for somebody in the background that's inhabited by this spirit that's walking straight towards the camera. It's really kind of an indie horror film. It's not super blood and guts. It's just more psychological fear, but really good.
I will hunt it down like the dog that it is on Netflix tonight.
Sounds like a great date movie. That's because you don't want the super gory stuff. It's got to be psychological.
The only thing missing is if you have glazed salmon, you want to undercook it so that as you're watching the film with your date, it's almost as if you're eating flesh. I guess you are, right?
Ben, that was awesome.
That was awesome.
That was worth having you on the show. We can just stop the show right there. That was fantastic.
Well, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
It's pretty good having you.
We'll see you guys later. It's like George Costanza. We'll just end on a high note.
Right. There you go.
So undercooked salmon, so it feels like you're eating flesh.
Oh, that's right. That's for when you're watching a zombie movie, right, Greg?
Right.
I'll never look at salmon the same way. I'm just gonna think of zombies from now on.
Just made me think of the salmon
Gina was
sushi I had.
impressed. That's all that matters, right? Gina had to be impressed.
Oh God, you kill me. This is gonna be a good show.
All right, awesome. What do you say we take a question real quick, and Ben,
Yeah.
feel free to jump in on this one. So, from the Facebook lead generation objections group, go to facebook.com/group/gotobjections. It's a great community to join. Me and Greg are both members there. So one of the other members, actually Korn, asks, "Hi, does anyone have any great scripts for creating urgency to buy or sell now instead of waiting to the spring? For example, interest rates going up or getting ahead of the spring competition, etc." So, Greg, what do you have to say about that?
What I would say, Matt, is I would say, well, I have not had my coffee, dude. I've been feeling it. It's like my brain is like 10 feet behind my body. But what I would actually say to the seller is that I would go 3 deep on questions. I would, one, I would ask them what their real reason is. Really find out what the reasoning is that they're thinking of selling. If they're getting promoted and being moved down to the company headquarters down in Long Beach or something like that, then they have a want, need, or desire to get out of that house now. Not wait for an extra couple bucks, if the market does change, or if they're just looking to make a couple extra bucks and just try to sell the home. So you can never push a seller out, but you can draw a seller out of a home. But you have to make it their idea. You have to make them say, okay, this is what I really want to do, and I want to do it now because of this reason. Like I have a client right now that they have an investment property, was their home, we're selling it, but they are just hot to trot because they want to take advantage of the market. The lack of inventory, the low interest rates, we're coming up, we're going to put their home on the 16th of February, so after Valentine's Day, after the Super Bowl, everyone's mellowed out when we're ready to rock and roll on that thing. So understand and really dig down and figure out what their want, need, or desire is, and then leverage off of that. That's what I would do. Ben, what would you do?
Well, there's a bunch of different things. I think that, it's funny. I always try to avoid all the bubble talk and everyone all freaking out about, oh my God, get out, run for the hills. I try to avoid that and just not allow it to freak me out. And for the most part, I've succeeded. But I think overall, I would say, just talk about timing, talk about the real estate potential, the fact that we've surpassed 2006 levels in most counties in the Bay Area. A lot of counties in Southern California, and that it's something to start thinking about now. Absolutely, and I'll get more into detail about what to do. In my opinion, what's a good thing to do with whatever money you walk away from. But we'll get to that whenever we get to it.
Yeah, and I'm interested to hear kind of more about what stage you start working with your clients in. I don't know how much that actually comes up for you if you're getting them on the buy side, but anyway, we'll talk about that later.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, that's to me, Greg, you're right. It's like you go 3D. It's not a question of scripting necessarily. You cannot create urgency that isn't there by the situation itself.
Mm-hmm.
Right. If somebody's deciding and there's no other external factors that's forcing the timing, then it's their decision on when they move. I don't know how you create urgency in that. It's just it's really what comes down to their goals are.
Right. Actually, it brings up a really good point. I referred over to Ben a client of ours, the folks that I'm just talking about that want to sell their house. And guys, I went into this meeting. It was a Friday afternoon meeting. We'd gotten done. Matt and I did our strategy call as we usually do after the podcast, and I was a little tired, and I didn't know if they were running late. It was a little rainy, and they called me. It's like, oh, I'm going to be 10 minutes late. I'm like, well, why don't we just do it another day? They're like, no, we want to do it right now. And so I'm like, okay. So I waited and went and met with these folks. I met with them at 4:30. Okay, and this is the part to the story I want to get to. From 4:30 until 7, I was with these people. Now we went to Matt's second home, Starbucks, and we sat there and we chatted. And what I did, guys, is that when we first started that meeting, they weren't going to be ready to sell until the spring. By the end of that meeting, they had given me a verbal listing agreement. They signed it the next day on DocuSign, and it's because I brought immense value. I showed them that it's better to do it now versus later. We don't know what the future holds, but we do know what we have now. So speak to the now, and don't have commission breath. Don't go in there like, please, let me sell your house. Oh my God, I got a credit card bill and a car payment and an ex-wife and 3 kids and a coffee habit and everything else. I couldn't believe it. I told them, like, well, guys, might want to wait. You might want to do this. I'm like, no, we want to go on now. And I talked about James, talked about Ben and doing 1031 exchanges. They didn't know what a 1031 was. I said I'd hook them up with a contact of mine that could help them buy out of state. You know, all these different value add. I put them on my value add rocket booster and pressed launch without even really trying, to tell you the truth. And it took off, and I have wonderful clients, Claudia and Santi, and their beautiful daughter, and then we're going to help them sell a house. So that's another way to go in with it, guys, being it with client-minded service, you know, first and foremost.
Yeah, I like it. Cool. All right, well, let's. What do you say we give out some shout-outs, and then we'll get into the bulk of what we're going to talk about, which is how to find and help your clients find investment properties out of state.
Yeah, boy.
Perfect.
Right. Let's do it.
All right. Well, let me jump in first, and then we'll have Greg give some shout-outs here. So first of all, I just want to thank Viral Marketing for cutting a check to make Hangouts and podcasts like these happen. If you want to check them out at getviral.com, they can help you get more repeat and referral business from your database. They help Greg out a lot with his Bay Area real estate video blog. And then Equity with 2Qs, the online buyer lead generation platform built from the ground up for solo agents. It's perfect if you're looking to generate a sustainable number of leads that you can actually follow up with month after month and actually close actual deals. How about that?
Actual deals?
That's right.
I
And
don't want
I
to do
know.
actual deals.
Well, it's, you know, there's a lot of phantom deals out there. Anyway.
Paper mache deals. I always like the flesh and blood one. So much better.
Exactly. All right, so if anybody wants more information on Equity as far as where it's available and when it's available, if it's not in your area yet, get a hold of Greg. And Greg, who do you want to give a shout out to?
Well, Matt, I want to give a shout out to a couple of really awesome people. I got to tell you, today when I was getting into the office, guys, I was had the honor of talking with Dan Killian out of South Carolina. He had written me an email talking about the Jay Sama interview, Matt, and how much he liked it. And he and I were like trying to put together, you know, where's a group that does crowdfunding for residential real estate? And I said I didn't really know. You know, we should probably explore that a little bit more because that'd be a lot of fun. But he also said, Dan, dude, thank you so much for your kind words. He said that he's getting about 90% of his real estate training from you and me, buddy. That's right.
That's right.
So we better keep it.
Sadly, not a great reflection on his broker or company or whatever, but that's good.
Well, that means
We'll
we're
take
doing
it.
a good job.
That's
I
right.
like this. So, Dan, thanks for the amazing comments, my friend. James, dude, thank you. YouTube, he wrote us, and he was talking about how much he was getting out of the high-tech, high-touch stuff. What did he say? He was stoked to stumble onto our site and the content, great stuff, and it's making a difference. And he loves the camaraderie between you and me, Matt. So, guys, thank you again for watching us. We love doing this stuff, and as you can tell, Matt and I like each other just a little bit. We're kind of buddies. I don't know, that budding friendship. But thank you, and then Lana. I think it's Lana. Yeah, Lana, thank you. Great getting time with you the other day. So much fun. Look forward to doing it more. And then Batia, did we decide it was going to be
either Batia or Batia? Not really sure just by the spelling.
Yeah, Batia or Batia. Yeah, if I murdered both of those names, I'm sorry. But I'm looking forward to getting time with you tonight, guys. I am completely booked for the McDaniel Challenge. Completely booked all the way through January, guys. I need February dates. Remember, do not let Greg spend the night alone. Take the McDaniel Challenge and call me on my cell phone or text me. Book a time, people. My number is 925-915-1978. 925-915-1978. Give me the opportunity to get on my soapbox and rant for a little bit. So
that's right. God knows if you don't schedule a call with him, he's just going to end up going out and trying more recipes, and nobody needs that.
That's a dick.
All right, Pat. So let's roll. I'm curious about kind of your background. You met apparently through the training class that you came through with Greg. So you are a licensed agent, but I'm curious kind of how did you get into the niche that you're in now, and what exactly do you do for clients?
Okay, well, first of all, it's a Real Wealth Network based in Walnut Creek, been around for about 13 years, and although our client base, we have 20,000 members, it's free to join. Our client base is primarily in California, but we've got a boatload of people from Australia, the Northeast, Seattle. It tends to be markets that are just not cash flow markets. It's too expensive, and I'll get into that in a second. But I've been in real estate for about 25 years. Yeah, I met Greg at the Jay Rockcliffe training that he was taught, that he still teaches to this day. Very good training. But I kind of do the realtor thing as a sideline because I was always been a fix and flipper for years, and I did buy and hold real estate, and then I joined this network. And then a couple years afterwards, I decided to contact them and see if they had any openings, because it's right up my alley. Essentially, what we do is we go around the country and we look for markets that make economic sense to invest in. And once we find markets that, and the definition of that is a well-diversified economy where you can buy a decent rental house in a good blue-collar, not crime-ridden, war-zone neighborhood, and buy for $100, $150, maybe $180,000, and it will cash flow healthily, not just $20 or $30, but $200 or $300 with an 80% loan every month. And so once we identify those markets, we then find a seasoned team of professionals in that market that essentially go out. They know the market like the back of their hand, so they'll buy these homes and put them in the name of their own company. Maybe they'll share sales, foreclosures, estate sales, or just normal MLS. They'll buy them. They're usually distressed in some way, shape, or form. They'll fix them up, and then they'll market them to investors like you guys, like me, like any of our members, at or slightly below market rate. Then what our people do is they'll buy these homes. And so that's step two. Step one, the market. Step two, a good seasoned professional group in the market that has a good reputation. Step three is they have to have good property management in place, because I'm sure you guys both know you can buy the best house in the world, but if it's 1,500 miles away and it's being managed by an absolute imbecile, it's instant nightmare for you. Instant 7 p.m. Sunday night, water heater is out, help Will Robinson type call. So, the key thing, it has to be managed by somebody really well. So once we identify the markets and we found the people, then either myself or somebody else from our company, and we're a real small company, we're about a dozen people, we'll fly out there and vet these people. We'll make absolutely sure that they're not fly-by-nighters. They've got a good reputation. They've been around for a while. And then we do the same thing with the property manager. Sometimes they will manage properties themselves, like an arm of their company does the property management, and that's fine. Or other times they recognize, hey, we're really good at finding, renovating, but we're horrible at managing. And I actually appreciate that candor, because it's not easy to manage properties, in which case they have a third-party property manager. So we'll go out there and we'll vet both entities, so to speak, make sure that we've got a good reputation, we talk to fellow investors, we talk to tenants, we look at the rehab, we make sure that they're not just lipsticking a pig, they actually are doing HVAC, plumbing, electrical, flooring, anything that needs to be done or rehab they're doing, so that if an investor buys a property, they know that they're not going to have problems or issues with fix-ups. They will, everybody does, it's a house, but that it's in good shape so they won't have to for a while. So what we essentially do is just that. We're primarily an education network, but we find these, right now I think we have 15 different affiliates, that's what we call them, the mom and pop or the seasoned professional teams, 15 different affiliates that are in 15 different markets around the country, and typically you can buy these homes for between maybe $60,000 on the low end to maybe $250,000 on the high end, and typically the sweet spot is between $100,000 and $150,000. Get more than $150,000, they're still great investments, but the cash flow isn't quite as good because the rents don't keep up with the purchase price.
So one question.
Yeah.
Basically, you're the easy button of real estate investment.
Pretty much. I think so.
And why wouldn't people be just knocking down your door?
Well, they kind of are, actually. I think we have 20,000 members. It's free to join. Out of that 20,000, granted, a lot of people are never actually going to buy anything. They're just in it for the education, and that's perfectly fine. We love having people that come to our events, and we have an event in Santa Clara and on the peninsula and in Walnut Creek, typically about once a month.
Really?
We'll bring like one or two of our affiliates out, so like maybe one month we'll have Houston and Jacksonville out. Then the next month we'll have Chicago and what's another market? And so we'll bring various people out, and that way our investors can meet them. But I would say I'm going by memory here, but I think we probably move about between 50 and 100 properties a month. So
holy shit!
There's a fair amount of demand out there, and just in the spirit of full disclosure, how Real Wealth Network makes our money is we essentially get a referral fee from the affiliates that we refer to. So if Sally Sue, member and investor, comes to us as $200,000, they'd really like to invest in real estate. You really only need about 40 or 50. That's kind of the minimum threshold. But I'm just using my example. Say Sally Sue has $200K. She wants to invest. I help narrow it down for her. Like, 15 markets doesn't sound like a lot, but it's kind of overwhelming for people. So I help them narrow it down to maybe 2 or 3, and I'll explain why and why I like them and why the cash flow is good and why we like our team there. Then I say, Sally, now you should go out and visit Houston and Jacksonville and Chicago and meet with our teams there, and then narrow it down to maybe 1. And then if she ends up buying 3 houses from Houston, Houston then sends Real Wealth Network basically a finder's fee, whatever our agreement is with them. No cost to Sally because there's not usually a realtor involved. It's a private sale. She'll typically get an appraisal. She'll get a loan, so everyone's assured she's not overpaying. And then boom, she now owns 3 properties in Houston. Say she bought them for $100,000 each. My typical example. You buy a property for $100,000. It's probably going to rent for about $1,000 or 1% of purchase price. That's a general benchmark. If you've got an 80% loan, it's probably going to cost you about $650 a month, principal, interest, taxes, insurance, and property management. So if you've got $1,000 coming in, $650 going out, that's $350 positive cash flow. So with that $350, a lot of people choose to use that as additional income, or a lot of people choose to, no, I'm going to pay that loan off, repay the principal, and whenever we do that, it'll probably take about 12 years to pay that 30-year loan off. So essentially, you're coming up with, let's just say, $24,000 down payment, 20% plus closing costs, $24,000 down. Now you own this piece of property that's giving you $350 every month positive cash flow, and if you pay it off soon by just applying that $350 every month, 12 years from now, you own it outright. So I mean, it's a great passive income plan for most of our members. A lot of our people have like a goal of 10 or 15 or whatever their goal is. My personal goal, I want to own 15 properties around the country, free and clear. I'm at 9 right now. They're not free and clear, but I own 9, and I'd like to get to 15, and that'll bring in about $135,000 a year in passive income using that math that I just did.
You're not counting equity either. I mean,
no, that's assuming they're not increasing in value, and that's assuming rents do not increase a penny. In other words, I don't like to use unknown numbers.
Count on economic growth. In other words,
right.
Just flatline everything.
Exactly. And the theory behind that is, are there going to be unforeseen repairs that happen 5, 7, 9 years down the road? Yes. And so that is offset by the fact that I'm not including any increases at all. They'll probably offset.
Yeah. That's amazing. I mean, knowing that, I'm going to become one of your new clients.
Well,
I've been looking to buy some rentals, and like you said, I mean, buying here in California, holy shit.
Yeah.
You're looking at beaters for $700,000.
Yep. I know.
And take that and diversify it out and go buy 3 houses, 4 houses, and I mean, I like the what's magical about the 15 number for you? I mean, why wouldn't you do 25? I mean, you're not like you're a grandpa. You can keep buying these things.
I know. I guess if I just use my example of the 100,000, the other thing I always like to point out is right now with that $100,000 house, it's costing me $650 a month because I've got a loan on it. Once that loan is paid off, that $1,000 coming in is my costs have gone way down. I still have to pay taxes, still have to pay for insurance, and still have to pay for property management. But let's just call that $250 a month. So $1,000 coming in, $250 going out. So $750 in my pocket every month. So using that math, if I owned 10 of them, 10 times 750 times 12 months is $90,000 a year. And if I do the math by 15 times 750 per month times 12 months is $135,000 a year. So good question, Greg. Why am I stopping at 15? I don't know.
Well, the answer is you probably won't stop there. It's a milestone goal. Yeah.
Right.
Well, I'm curious about. So let's talk about why someone would want to get out of the current market, or what are the indications where it would be better for someone to take the money that they make off of a sale in somewhere in the Bay Area and let's say move it into a new market. When you're meeting with clients and they're coming to you and saying, "This is my issue," what are the indicators that you're looking for that tell you, yes, it's a better decision to move your money out of the market than to keep it in the market?
Well, a bunch of different things. First of all, just forget the overall market for a second. Let's just look at my neighborhood on the Concord-Walnut Creek, California border. I could buy the house down the street for maybe Well, right now it'd be like 600,000. But 3 years ago, there was a house at the end of the block that was a, kind of a beater. Nobody had been taking care of it, and it was on the market for like 350. And I was like, wow, I should have bought it. But even if I had, let's just say, could I rent that property for $3,500 a month, or the 1% of purchase price benchmark? Most likely, absolutely not. I could probably rent it for maybe $1,800 or $2,000. So the question is, if I have $100,000 just sitting under my mattress, like Greg suggested earlier, should I use that $100,000 to buy, put 20% down on a $350,000 property in the Bay Area, or $700,000 that will lose money every month? Or it just makes much more sense to buy a property that's more like 150,000 elsewhere. So just from an economic standpoint, it just doesn't make sense to invest in California. Now, people do it, you can do it, and it's not an absolute no. But when people tell me, I'm just really nervous about investing where I can't drive by the property every night on my way home, I'm like, well, okay, I understand that, but it's kind of a psychological barrier you got to get over.
It's a limiting belief.
If you've got a decent property manager, then it really shouldn't matter. Now, it's not a set it and forget it. You still have to read your property statement. You still have to go, why am I being charged why am I being billed to recharge the R12 in the AC unit when you guys just did that? I mean, you still have to stay on top of things because stuff happens. But 10 minutes a month. So if spending 10 minutes a month isn't worth it, and you'd really rather just be able to drive by, most people can be dissuaded from that notion when you look at the numbers.
Oh yeah, I mean, my father had for years and years and years and years. He sold it a year or so ago. I don't know, 50 units in Boulder, Colorado. Apartment. He had a big old apartment building, and that thing was a freaking cash cow.
Right.
Just chunked out the cash, and it not being out of state, who cares? He had, like you said, been good property manager, and that's one of the things that I want to talk about a little bit here is with you. What's a conversation that you instruct some of your agents or affiliates or whatever who refer you business? What's the script that they use to help direct them to you? I mean, and like Matt was saying, how do you have that conversation?
Well, the funny thing is they almost never, they being the affiliates in the 15 cities, it's almost the other way around. They don't really refer people to us. We refer people to them. So, we almost don't want them out. I mean, they can do what they want. They're independent. They're not employed by us, but we don't really want them out doing the sales and marketing. We want them out finding deals, finding houses, rehabbing them, and we then refer our people to them. So that's kind of the way it works. So there really isn't really a script involved. I mean, essentially, we have a huge sales and marketing. We do these events. We do a webinar every Thursday at noon. We do all kinds of stuff, and so people just naturally hear about Real Wealth Network, and they join, and it's free, and we're not out. The problem is, as you guys both know, there's so many shysters out there in the real estate industry. But wait, no. But wait, if you sign up now, I'll give you a set of Ginsu knives, or if you sign up in the next 30 seconds. And we're kind of the anti-gurus. We're not really interested in doing any of that. And the product or products sell itself. And when you just explain to somebody, yeah, you could buy a $500,000 lean-to in the Bay Area and rent it out for $2,500 a month after you spent $50,000 painting and putting new carpet in. Or you could buy a $100,000 or $150,000 house that's already been completely rehabbed in Jacksonville, Florida, or believe it or not, Chicago, or Cincinnati, Ohio, and it's going to rent for $1,000 or $1,500 a month, and you don't have to do anything. So if you have $100,000 cash, would you rather buy one house in the Bay Area, $400,000 house with 25% down, or would you rather buy 4 houses in Cincinnati, Ohio, for $20,000 plus $4,000 cash down, buy 4 of them for that $100,000? And when you look at the cash flow and compare it, do you want to lose a couple $100 every month in the Bay Area with that investment you just made, or get whatever 350 times 4, that's $1,400 every month by doing 4 in Cincinnati. It's really a no-brainer.
So what are a couple of your favorite markets, and what are you seeing, markets stay consistent, so that, like, if I was Joe Agent out there and I watch this podcast and I hear about Ben Smith and all this stuff, and I'm like, okay, well, shit, I would like to know where to direct my people. So what are 4 of your favorite markets, and just tell me a little bit about why.
Okay. I look for 2 things when I'm looking at a favorite market. Number one is a lot of these Midwestern markets are really boring, and that's good from an investment standpoint.
Yeah.
Hey, Matt, is that ringing any bells for you, buddy?
Yeah, I'm from Omaha, Nebraska, where a couple of guys I know have multiple rental properties for that exact reason. It's boring, and money loves boring.
Exactly. Like Southern Florida, Arizona, Nevada, here, the 20% ups and downs.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunes are won and lost, marriages are crushed, people leave in tears. That doesn't happen in Cincinnati or Pittsburgh.
So are you saying that divorce
true.
rates are significantly lower in Cincinnati?
Well, no, I'm not actually.
Well, maybe just the real estate related ones.
Right, exactly. Real estate. I mean, I think I was on Zillow once, and I was looking in Pittsburgh, and it's like the line chart of value. They barely went up in 5, 6, and 7, and they barely went down in 8, 9, and 10. And then it's just they're just so steady. It's like 3 to 5% appreciation, no matter what. Now, did they go down a little bit during the crash? Yes, but not just nothing compared to what we're used to seeing.
Yeah, it's softened, but it did not crash.
No,
not like anything out here.
Right, exactly. So therefore, if you're buying a house that seems incredibly cheap, and the tenant is paying all of your costs plus a nice, healthy $350, $400 a month positive cash flow, really the question is, even if the property did go down by 20% value, do you really care? Because you're going to keep it for the long term. Now, obviously, we don't want it to go down, and looking at those markets, they typically don't. But also, if the Bay Area has a huge boom like we've had the last few years, they will not zoom up either. So you have to take the good with the bad, but the point is, you're doing it for the long haul, and you're not going to sell it in 3 years. It's not a churn and burn strategy. It is a buy and hold for long-term wealth building strategy. So I'm rambling, but to answer your question, Greg, I really love Jacksonville, Florida. We've got a great affiliate in Jacksonville. All of their homes real narrowly focused. They're all between 100 and 110, and they rent for between $895 a month to $1,100 a month.
Wow.
And the guys in Jacksonville, they avoid the bad neighborhoods, and they also avoid the $170,000 neighborhoods down the street, because Brian told me, he's like, we could buy these $170,000 properties, but you're spending $70,000 more, and maybe you'll get $50 more a month in rent. It just doesn't make any sense. The numbers don't work out.
Yeah.
So I really like Jacksonville. I also love Cincinnati. I'm using that as an example, but they have a much wider range, $50,000 to $250,000, and you can pick a bunch of different properties in that range.
Really? $50,000 for a home?
Yep.
Are you shitting me?
No,
What are you buying?
So $100,000 house goes into foreclosure? Absolutely.
What do you get for $50,000?
Okay, I actually own 3 homes in Cincinnati, and I went through the same, I bought them about 2 years ago, before I worked for the network. And I said, okay, what should I do? Should I buy a good, a better, a best, an A, B, and C? And I ended up buying one property for $59,000, one for $110,000, and one for $165,000. So I basically got a C, a B, and an A property, as they call them. And to answer your question, the $59,000 property is in a, kind of lower middle class, blue collar neighborhood, not crime zone, not scared to walk around there at 10 o'clock on a Saturday night. But I would have lived there in college. It's not. I'm kind of beyond that now. But it rents for $650 a month, and it's about a 1,100 square foot home. So it's just it's hard for us Bay Area people or Californians to grasp. You're picturing a lean-to on the edge of the local refuse dump. It's not. It's a perfectly good neighborhood.
$59,000, dude.
Yep.
Oh man,
That's freaking ridiculous.
Yep, and it rents for what I say, $650. So like 1.1% of what I paid. So
I'm gonna fall in love with.
and it will never ever go below that, because you can get an apartment anywhere in the Midwest for $600 a month.
right.
Yeah. So you're never. I mean, most houses in the Midwest are never going to rent for below, I don't know, I would say $700 to $800 a month, as long as it's if it's a single family home. So
Yep. Right.
That's
unless
ridiculous.
like slumlord area, but yeah. So Jacksonville, Cincinnati, and then what are a couple of other markets
I'll
that you
give you
like?
two others real quick. I don't want to take up too much time. I really like Indianapolis, Indiana. We've got a great market there. They're only, 120 miles from Cincinnati, so I wouldn't want to invest in both of those because they're so close. We kind of like to preach geographical diversification. So like for me, I'm going to focus on Cincinnati in the north and Jacksonville in the south and kind of build my portfolio there. But nice. Indianapolis is really good. We've got a great team there. Also a real wide range of properties. And then, interestingly enough, people are really surprised. Chicago, Illinois, is the fifth biggest city in the whole country, and we've got two affiliates there. One is a single-family company, and they invest in all kinds of little cities and towns around Chicago. And then we have a multifamily. Some people are really interested in getting into multifamily. They want to get like a 3-flat or a 4-flat unit, and it only counts as one loan against them, but yet you've got 4 doors. So it's kind of economy of scale. And they do a really nice job of renovating generally the south side of Chicago, but once again, not crime-ridden, scary south side, decent south side. Mm-hmm. And the cash flow is phenomenal in Chicago. The downside to Chicago is dysfunctional political system and relative. Yes, I know.
What? Wait back for a second.
Yep, and also generally we found that for investing, not to get political here because I'm not, but red states typically are better states to invest in than blue states, simply because they're a little more landlord friendly, they're a little bit less regulation controlled. So Chicago's an exception to that. They're definitely a blue state, and their taxes are higher, but the rents are also a lot higher. And so when you do the math, most of the ROIs with an 80% loan, you're getting between 12 and 16 or 17% return on your investment on any of these locations I'm mentioning. If you pay all cash, it's more like between 8 and 10. But that'll beat the stock market, especially the first 2 weeks of 2016.
Yeah, that's been a bummer. Actually, so I wanted to call your bluff here. So I went on to the Zillow, and I went to Cincinnati, Ohio, and clicking around. It's unfreaking believable, dude. This is a 3-bed, 3-bath, 2,962 square feet. Nice looking unit, clean, right? For sale for $108,000. Zestimate's at $148,000. Your estimated monthly mortgage, $391.
Yep.
That's what my car payment is.
Yep.
What the? You kidding?
Yeah. Well, not your car payment, Greg.
I'm $375.08, Matt.
Oh, okay. All right. Now, Ben, I did have getting back to the agent perspective on things. So I'm very curious because you're dealing with, it sounds to me like a very wide range of investors, from people that might be just beginners, they've never invested before, all the way up to people that they're like you, they're experienced. So for you, coming in and trying to explain the different deals and explain the process, what's the difference for you as an agent between dealing with a savvy investor versus somebody that's maybe dabbling or hasn't never done it before?
Oh, huge difference. I mean, we just cut to the chase with the experienced investor. We don't waste time talking about things that they already know about. But it's really important when I'm talking to somebody who's brand new, and a lot of people I talk to, we offer these free strategy sessions, and I do probably about half of them. And what that is for a new investor, they can go to the website, they can soak up all the knowledge, but they want to talk to somebody for 45 minutes to an hour about their situation. And if I'm talking to somebody who maybe doesn't even own their own home, they're renting at a place in Los Gatos, and they work in the high-tech industry, and they've got a fair amount of money, but it doesn't make any sense to invest in real estate. So we just kind of take it slow. Make sure that they know, don't let anybody ever push you into anything that you're not comfortable with. You need to move at a pace that's comfortable with you. So schedule a strategy session. I'll have a conversation with you. We'll determine what markets, we'll see what your goals are, what your timelines are, what you're comfortable with, risk tolerance and things like that. And then we'll narrow it down from that 15 markets maybe down to, say, 2 or 3. And then I'll say, why don't you watch the webinars that are archived on our site for those 2 or 3 markets that we determine are appropriate for you. And then the next step is, if you can do this, fly out, meet with our affiliate in that market. They'll give you a free, tour. I mean, everything's free, but you go out, have a tour. That way you can kick the tires on some properties. I think that's what freaks most people out for good reason. They don't want to buy anything for, even if it's only $60,000. You don't want to casually buy it based on some pictures on the internet and promises and good vibes. You want to actually get on a plane and see the people you're going to be dealing with, see the neighborhoods they're buying in. It's good because that way when you're looking at pictures of a house, you don't know that just outside the frame is a bunch of thugs drinking 40s. That's a little scary. So this way, you can go there. You can see the neighborhoods. You know that they're good.
Yeah. I agree with you. I bought a place in Arizona with a buddy of mine, like a complete Neanderthal, and never saw the property because I trusted the source that was telling me. Was one of my buddy Casey, one of his old bosses, and the guy makes a killing. So he's like, yeah, my buddy and I were buying all these homes, we're flipping them and everything else. Right. I never went and took a look at the area, and I'll never do that again. I lost a lot of money on that deal because I trusted a source and, like you said, the good vibes and all that bullshit. Yep. No, it's like getting married without ever meeting your spouse in person. Yep. It makes absolutely no sense.
Right. And amazingly, a lot of our people, and that's okay, but there's one couple I thought of that they bought like 7 or 10 properties in Houston, and they had never actually seen the properties until about 4 years later. And so they finally went out and saw the properties, and the affiliate was all kind of a little bit nervous because they've been dealing with this couple, but they'd never seen the properties, and that's fine. But I would say probably about 50 or 60% of our people they go out there. They at least their first time. They want to see the market, know what they're buying. They don't have to buy anything right then and there. They don't have to at all, but at least when they come back home, they're comfortable because they were there. They saw that, they're not just slapping lipstick on a pig. They're actually doing a full-scale renovation.
Well, if you're going to have a couple $100,000 or more to invest, don't be a cheapskate. Yep. Get on the damn plane. It's going to cost you, let's say, worst case scenario, $1,000.
Right. Yeah, $1,000.
Come on.
Right. And
worth it.
You fly out Sunday night. You lose the day. And then Monday morning, you meet with city number 1 for half the day. Then you hop on a 2-hour flight to city number 2, meet with them on Tuesday, then you're home Tuesday night. So it's 2 days out of your life, 48 hours, and you can sleep better at night.
And maybe if you're having fights with your wife, it might give you a time to let her calm down.
Exactly. Turn that into a week-long trip. All right, so I have 2 more questions, possibly selfishly. So number 1, before we talk about how to pitch things to more of a savvy investor, I'm really curious about that. But I'm also curious about the structure of how your network works in terms of why is there no real estate fee. So if you're working with affiliates, these people they're basically going out there finding the deals, but they're not listing them, or they're bringing them to you guys before they list them on the MLS, for example. So they're paying a referral fee, but the client themselves are not being charged an actual agent commission. So how does that work?
That's correct. The client themselves, you essentially are buying. So let's just say, XYZ turnkey company in whatever city. They go out, they find these properties, they buy them in the name of XYZ Turnkey Company, and then they meet with investors. Investor comes out, gets a tour from that company. The company shows them the 10 properties that they currently have. They have a pro forma sheet of how each one of those properties will work. Rent's coming in this, taxes, insurance going out, so you know what your cash flow is going to be. If that investor then wants to buy that property, say property number 7 from that company, then it's essentially just a private deal. In other words, there's no agent involved on the sale. You could certainly get a real estate agent involved. It doesn't matter, but you're essentially signing a contract, buying that property from that seller. It all goes through title. It all goes through escrow. Most of our people don't buy all cash. Some do. But when you explain to them how much better the return is by using leverage, they generally don't. So therefore, there's a bank involved. The bank is going to get an appraisal that you want to make absolutely sure you're not overpaying. And part of the advantage of being in the network is if we had say a bozo affiliate that was overcharging, they would not last long because the proverbial shit would hit the fan fairly quickly, and we would not use that affiliate any longer. So people are assured that if there's a problem, although they're a member of our network, Real Wealth Network, and we're referring them to appropriate affiliates, if they 2 months, 3 months, 6 months down the road have a problem, they can come back to us, and we'll use the might of our relationship and the sheer numbers and our buying power to say, listen, Mr. Affiliate, XYZ investors having a problem, take care of it, and they will. Luckily, that's hardly ever happened, but it has happened. So yeah, I don't know. Does that answer your question, Matt?
Yeah, I think so. So then basically like XYZ turnkey company in this example then pays you just private one-to-one. They pay you a finder's fee out of the profit they're making. Okay.
Sometimes it goes on the HUD. I mean, it's completely transparent. It kind of just depends on their setup. And with the new HUD regulations, things are getting a little tighter, and I think more often we are going to see that on whatever they're calling the HUD nowadays. We'll see that.
Gotcha. Okay. All right, and then just the last question, for at least for me, and then Greg, feel free to jump in, but I was just curious, when you're sitting down with a savvy investor and you're cutting to the chase, what are they most concerned with, and how do you present yourself as an agent, as someone that knows how to deal with a savvy investor?
Well, typically, most concerning to your more savvy investors is presumably they've had investment properties before, and they have these ideas in their head, and they're accurate, that it can be a real nightmare, managing themselves, or maybe they've had a property manager that was just kind of on autopilot, glorified rent collectors, as a lot of property managers sadly are. They're not proactive, they're just reactive, and so they're real concerned, having had those issues in the past with properties that are maybe 40 miles down the road. How in the world are they going to deal with a property that is 1,500 to 3,000 miles away? And so that's when I explained to them, well, we have a list of references of other members who have purchased from each one of our affiliates. I'd be more than happy to get that to you so you can talk to them. But I just kind of explained to them it's really not that difficult as long as the property manager is good and is ethical and is ahead of the curve. So that's generally their biggest concern. If I'm talking to not savvy investors or new ones, they're overwhelmed by 15 different markets and where to go. But the savvy investors typically know where they want to go, and they're able to look at cash flow at various markets. Like, for example, Cleveland and Kansas City, much cheaper price points. Like, you don't want to pay more than maybe 85 or 90,000 in Kansas City, and more than maybe 120,000 in Cleveland. It's just a less expensive market. Whereas with Dallas, you start at 120, and then it goes up from there. So it's all relative, and some of my more savvy investors, they want the cheaper markets, the less expensive markets, because for the amount of cash they have, they can buy X amount more properties. But then other times, I had one person they were doing a 1031, and they were about to have $1 million, and when you have $1 million and you're planning on using leverage, forget $80,000, $90,000 properties. There's just too many properties involved. Your head explodes. So it's more appropriate for them to go to a Dallas or the higher end in Cincinnati or a Houston, where you can easily buy decent properties for $150,000, $180,000, and that way you don't have so many to worry about. So it's the economy of scale. I think there's a law of diminishing returns. I wouldn't want to have 50 properties, because then I've got 50 roofs, 50 hot water heaters. I'd rather have 20 slightly more expensive properties. Then I only have 20 roofs and 20 water heaters.
Yeah, it makes sense. Or why not go buy fourplexes, or go buy a 20plex or something like that?
Yeah. It's just, once you get over 4 units, you're kind of in the commercial realm, and a lot of the protections go away. And we do have abilities to do that, but our network tends to focus on the 1 through 15. People have up to, say, 15 or 20 units, and they generally don't want to deal with commercial stuff, although we have some people who do, and we do have some availability there.
I just think it would be smart to go buy as many fourplexes as humanly possible. Like you mentioned earlier, it hedges you against any kind of economic downturn. It hedges you against someone losing their job, moving out, getting a divorce, or getting married and having a child. Whatever life changes, you still have 2 to 3 other people paying your mortgage.
True, but another way of looking at that is if one owns 10 single-family homes in, say, 2 or maybe 3 cities, even though they're physically different structures, totally unrelated to one another, you're getting diversification there. Tenant number 7 leaves, you've got all the other ones that haven't left.
No, you got a good point.
What do you count on for vacancy, by the way? Is it 10, 12%?
Believe it or not, and we've got a guy who independently verifies this, but most of our webinars that we've archived on the site for each one of the cities, they all address that issue. And almost without fail, people are between, like 93 to 95% occupied. So that's between 5 and 7% vacancy.
Yeah. Okay.
We'd like to advocate just assume 5% vacancy and assume 5% maintenance. So using my example earlier of the $1,000 in and the $650 going out, you'd want to add an additional 5% or $50 for vacancy and $50 a month for maintenance, just to be super ultra conservative in your numbers. And then maybe your rate of return drops by a point or two, but you've got that built in.
That makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. Even though they're lower numbers and people's eyes kind of start getting, you get all excited, like I can buy 6 houses. Well, don't do that. Don't be crazy.
Right.
Be very, very cautious. And I like the idea. What it was? It was an old math scenario that you buy 5 rental properties, and all the income goes to pay the first one off. Right, and then that one gets done, and then you pay the second, third, fourth, fifth one off, and then your net worth somewhere in there becomes around $1 million with your real estate assets and with your cash-on-cash return.
Absolutely, and we say the same thing. Now let's just use an example. If you buy 10, using my example, 10 $100,000 properties, each one of them has an $80,000 mortgage on it, and you've got 350 positive cash flow coming in addition to your mortgage costs.
Yeah.
Don't pay each one of the 10 with that extra 350. Take the 3,500 that you get from all 10 of those properties and pay off number 1.
Yeah.
And first of all, it's more viscerally satisfying to just pay off a loan, and it'll happen. You like that word? Viscerally?
Check. Yes, it's fantastic.
Yeah. So it's more satisfying to do that, and then on top of that, as you guys know, the Fannie Freddie loan guidelines, you can really only have like 10 investment loans at once. You can get a loan number 11 and above, but it costs more money. It's much harder. So every time you pay off one of those 10, you've just freed up one of those 10 loan slots, so you can go out and get another loan if you so choose.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And it pays up. Then when you get to 10, let's say you're bringing in $15,000 worth of rent every month. You dump that. You'll pay off that next property within what? 2 years, a year and a half.
Well, yeah. I mean, every time I had an Excel wizard. I'm okay with Excel, but I had like a real techie, geeky, super wizardy guy set up this thing, and every time we run this scenario, it takes about 12 years. And like the very first property, maybe it takes 3 years to pay that off. Using my example of $3,500 every month, it doesn't take very long. And then each subsequent property takes that much less time because you've got that much one less loan. And by year 12, all 10 have been paid off. So that's why I always use that example. It's like a 12-year timeline. Basically, you're creating 12 little boxes scattered around the country, hopefully in 2 or 3 cities. You don't want to be too scattered. There's no point. Too much brain damage. But say you had 10 properties in like 3 different cities, then they're all these little boxes spitting out money that's going straight into your pocket. I mean, and all you did was come up with the down payment 12 years ago. So it's
so 2 things here before we, as Matt would say, kick this thing home, because we're running out of time. Yeah. This is this is no joke, a retirement program for real estate agents, because God knows we don't have one.
Right.
And 2, you're going to be able to spread the word and get clients, help fund their, retirement program.
Right. Well,
that's a really, really good service. And you think I'm kidding? I'm not kidding. We are going to buy some properties together this year.
Absolutely, love it. Well, best thing to do, if anyone's interested, they can call me, Ben Smith. I'm the Director of Investor Relations with Real Wealth Network in Walnut Creek, or you can just go to www.realwealthnetwork.com. It's all free. It's not like you have to join now and get a free set of Ginsu knives. It's not like that. It's completely free. It's mainly education, but we also back it up with affiliates and places where you can buy property. It's fantastic. Way better than the stock market.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Of course, anything is at this point.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, cool, Ben. That was awesome. Thank you very much. So I hope everybody takes advantage of that and at least go back and watch it. If you do work with investors, and obviously a lot of real estate agents do or have the potential to work with investors, make sure you go back and listen to some of the phrasing and what he talked about in terms of the savvy investor versus the beginner investor, because there's a lot of key stuff there in terms of how you present yourself, how to present deals, what you need to know going in. It's important to really know and understand the structure and how an investment property might fit in with that person before you start pitching it to potential investors. So,
hey guys, is it okay to give a phone number, or is that too sales?
Yeah. No,
okay.
Go ahead.
Well, another option, if you just want to talk to me directly, I can always be reached at area code 925-947. You know what? I just screwed that up. Can we edit that out?
No, go ahead.
I can't believe that. Wow, I just went back to some old phone number I had when I was 12. That's really scary. Okay. You can reach me directly at area code 925-280-2817. So 925-280-2817. Or just go to realwealthnetwork.com.
Yeah,
cool.
I recommend it, guys. Your clients are going to love it. Your wife's going to love it. Your husband, with your kids, you're going to be able to pay those kids, college tuitions with this stuff. Like Matt and I, we're younger aged. We're not younger in the business, but I mean, I know for a fact I have way more than 12 years left, in this business.
Yep.
And if you were to buy 2 properties a year and pay them off,
yep.
Slowly but surely, you can pay $60,000 for a home, which blows my mind.
Yeah. I think the key is just don't let anyone don't go any faster than you're comfortable with, and just buy 1 or buy 2. Calm down, wait, make sure that you were under promised and over delivered to, and the cash flow's there, and you feel good about who you're dealing with, and it's been smooth. Then you can add to that slowly over time. And I always like to say, and I think all 3 of us fit in this category, and probably the majority of people listening to us. We like to talk about retirement. We're never really going to retire. I can't even imagine sitting around the backyard planting roses, watching the Days of Our Lives, eating bonbons. It's just not going to happen. But
sounds horrible.
But we do want to slow down, and we do want to have the pressure taken off of us to produce.
Exactly. But I want to get into a job optional state. In other words,
exactly.
I have
that is a great way to put it.
I don't have to have a job. Job optional.
Job optional. I love it.
Yeah, that's my new catchphrase.
That's right. I want to get to the point where talking to Greg is optional.
There you go.
All right. Anyway, that's a good segue into the McDaniel Challenge. Greg, how do people get a hold of you to talk to you for a blessed hour or hour and a half?
How do I just cut off your camera?
That's right. You can't. Sorry, I'm in control.
Best guys, take the McDaniel Challenge, where people do want to talk to me, not like Matt doesn't want to talk to me. Let's work through an hour of free coaching. Let's find that trigger issue that's holding you up. Let's work on some scripts, techniques, how to blend high tech, high touch. We'll put together a custom business plan or marketing plan for you. I'm going to help see your special powers. That's like all crystal-y and shit. But like your special power, what's that unique driving difference that makes you you? And then I'll show you how to monetize that. But otherwise, or just get on the phone, just kick back and hang out and drink a beer and talk about life. I don't care. I just want to meet all of you guys. So best number for me, 925-915-1978. Again, 925-915-1978 is my personal private cell phone. Abuse the shit out of it and get a hold of me. Let's book these dates for February, guys. Thank you so much. I really appreciate all of you guys that listen to us. It touches me deeply that we are bringing value and something positive to the industry. Matt and I love to hear from you. It really encourages us to keep moving forward. So reach out, and if you just want to say, hey guys, we love what you're doing, that really makes our day. So thank you again. We do it for you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, guys. We're going to be back here on Wednesday at 3 o'clock, I believe. Is that with Pete and Peter?
That is with Pete and Peter. Yes.
Okay.
Off the market.
So we're talking about off-market properties on Wednesday. So that's going to be another very, very good, very interesting episode. So go back, watch this one, look for the phrasing, look for some of the keys that Ben gave, and then if you're in the Bay Area, especially if you have clients that you might want to refer over to Ben, obviously his phone number and everything is earlier in the podcast, or you can just email Ben at realwealthnetwork.com, right?
Yep, Ben at realwealthnetwork.com. That's Ben, Ben at realwealthnetwork.com. I know it's kind of a mouthful.
It's Greg's dyslexia that's rubbing off on me, for God's sake.
That means you're becoming a better person.
I flipped the words. No, that doesn't make me a better person.
Yes, it does.
All right, anyway. Guys,
I'm
we'll
a
let you
good
go.
person.
We are all out of time. Thank you so much, Ben. Again, it was a pleasure, and we'll see everybody else on Wednesday.
See you
Adios.
guys.